Alright, hello and welcome to another YouTube video. This time we're talking about power rankings and we're going into the summer showdown. No hero pools, everything up for grabs. We're in the back half of the season now, so where is everyone gonna stand? Where is it all gonna shake out? All those good things. Let's get a Overwatch League standings up here as well while we do this, because I think it will be interesting to have a look at, because it goes back and forth, right? So let's have a look at the standings where we are right now. So we've got Dallas Fuel on top in the West with San Francisco Shock at second. I think Dallas Fuel has picked up so many points from just like winning or coming second in tournaments. So we're a little back and forth. So Dallas Fuel is well ahead of it, but the real question is like this middle pack, because I don't think anyone is particularly close to Dallas Fuel right now in terms of consistency or just quality throughout the last, May Melee and the June Joust, sorry. But this sort of like 2 to 5, like 2 to 6, 2 to 7 region is like very up in the air, because I think all of these teams have been good in different metas. And I think it's going to be interesting to see as time goes on. Then we go further down in the West and we got Toronto Defiant, Boston Uprising, Paris Eternal, Vancouver Titans, and London Spitfire. I think Toronto and Boston and maybe Paris, right? Obviously, they had a pretty good June Joust, but other than that, they've been pretty lackluster. I think they got all 3 of their wins in the June Joust. So they've been improving a lot, and that's impressive. I just realized the chat's in the middle. All right. Yeah, well, fuck it. Here we are. And then we go to the bottom, and I think Vancouver Titans and London Spitfire are pretty consistently at the bottom. People keep asking me this question in stream. Do you think either of these teams are going to go 0-16? And the sad reality is maybe. I think either one of these teams could go 0-16. I'm pretty sure Vancouver plays against London towards the end of the season. So these two teams are going to play at some point. So obviously both of them aren't, but I think that's going to be the match. I would lean more towards London Spitfire with the addition of Sparker now, them being able to get that win and get that advantage. Vancouver hasn't been improving, especially with Chungsick, hasn't really stood out to me. Obviously, last second edition, but for the most part, I think London Spitfire will be able to probably get the win. Going over the East, Shanghai Dragons could just like not play another match and probably still qualify for the playoffs. They're so far ahead. You need to talk about them just being phenomenal in the June Joust. Their ability to adapt and play their own style was ridiculous, and you need to like commend that pretty heavily. But we go further down the list and it starts getting so heavily up in the air. So Seoul Dynasty, Philadelphia Fusion, Hangzhou Spark, and Chengdu Hunters are 4 teams that just have been incredibly mediocre, and then one week decide to be really good, and then the next week they decide to be mediocre again. We saw Philadelphia Fusion drop a map to the LA Valiant to not qualify for the tournaments of the June Joust. Seoul Dynasty has been good at times, but it's just never really been able to get above that from time to time. Hangzhou Spark looked really good in the June Joust, but really shut the bed against NYXL in the qualifiers. And Chengdu, I feel like Chengdu's been getting overhyped with how their performances have actually been. Like obviously in the May Melee, they didn't do that well, but they went there, but they had a really bad June Joust and they did not look comfortable. So questions need to start being raised about the Chengdu Hunters once again. Shout out to Jimmy. Yeah, shout out to my boy Jimmy. NYXL on the other hand, I think have been pretty up and down as well. Probably more up and down than anyone else in the, in the Overwatch League. They made it to the June Joust playoffs, but getting that win over the Hangzhou Spark, which was great for them. But I don't really know where to put them other than that, because they had some good wins. They looked good when they had Flora on the hit scan. They could play Feather on the Echo, but how much of that is going to translate into the rest of the tournaments? Obviously, no hero pools. Are the NYXL actually stepping up, or was everyone stepping down and they just had a good meta for themselves? Time will tell. Guangzhou's another team that's been through some team turmoil. Just never having coaches consistently. They did get some good wins. They look okay. They're not bottom of the barrel team Los Angeles Valiant, but they are they are definitely one of the weaker teams. I think if the Valiant are going to get a win, it's going to be over like an NYXL or a Guangzhou Charge. These two teams that just have a bad meta or just not playing well. But for the most part, I think if any team is going to go 0-16 in the Overwatch League, it's going to be the Los Angeles Valiant. It's just, their team is so average and so mediocre in so many different roles. Like, I think their DPS are solid, but everything else is just all over the place. So we'll see. We'll see how that ends up shaking out. But with that all said about these teams, and we're talking about the standings, let's go over to the power rankings list. I'm actually going to add a row below, because I think this is actually important. We're making an E tier, and I think Valiant has to go down here. Because I think they're just on a completely different level. So they're on a completely different level. They deserve to be in the bottom tier. They are out of everyone else, okay? So then I actually want to move Guangzhou up. Because of that, I want to move everyone around and sort of have like another tier break coming in here. So I'm going to move Guangzhou Charge up to C tier. Not because I've been particularly impressed by a lot of what they're doing, but I think they have been doing a little bit better. If they can find the right meta, if they can get the right things going, then I think they're going to get a few more wins on the board. I don't see Guangzhou getting any better to the point that they're going to qualify for any of our tournament playoffs. I don't think that they're going to have this ridiculous redemption arc, but I also don't think they're the worst team in the league. They do have some talent. They have Krong, they have Karib, they have Choice of One, they have Eileen, and they seem like their coaching and their team is playing a really good style around that now, right? So they seem like they're doing better and making the right improvements. So I'm going to move them up to the C tier. Everything's going to shuffle around as we go up as well, so don't panic yet of, oh my god, you think Guangzhou's in the same tier as Atlanta Reign? Just calm down, okay? We just started. We're moving everything up. Let me move everything around. Vancouver Titans are going to stay in the D tier. A winless team that is still struggling to really get their grasp on anything. They had a really difficult June joust. Just strength of schedule was so hard against them. They played against some of the best teams that we have in the league, and they didn't cap a bunch of points. If I remember correctly, they haven't, in the June joust, they capped like a handful of points. Like, not just they capped a handful of maps, they capped a handful of points, right? So they're still very much struggling. Chungsik was an emergency fix for Shredlock being on the way out. But at the end of the day, there's nothing saying that they should be going up in the tier list. I'm going to move Paris Eternal up. I think Paris Eternal are really coming to their own. I think they had a lot of great additions. When we have, it's been a while since I saw Paris Eternal play. With their two new additions in Vestola and Dredro, I think they looked very good. I'm not going to say these players were exceptional, some of the best that we've seen. They didn't have as good of a debut as like an Aspire or something like that, right? But I think they look improved. They look like they have drive. They look like they have hunger. They have the passion. They're firing on all cylinders. If they can get Naga onto this Echo more consistently, Onigod really starts stepping up. I think Dan had a phenomenal upgrade from the May Melee going into the June Joust, because I think everyone's sort of that nerves and that rust is being sort of shaken off. If they can get Dredro with some good internet, I think they're actually in a really good spot. So I'm excited for this Paris team, and I think they deserve to go up after getting a couple of those wins, because London Spitfire is saying in the D tier as well, and I can't put Paris Eternal down here with winless teams. It just feels weird, because London and Vancouver have been exceptionally poor so far this season. And it's disappointing for the London Spitfire, because we have higher expectations for this team. British Hurricanes, contenders team, getting promoted to the Overwatch League. They were very confident in themselves. They, when we were sort of rating them very lowly heading into the season in our power rankings, they were like, oh, we'll show you. We used to beat our teams in scrims. We used to do all this kind of stuff. We haven't seen that from them, unfortunately. I don't know what is holding these guys back. Obviously, they had a couple of changes. Blase coming into the roster, Sparker not being of age, but they just haven't been performing, I would say, on a team level very well as well. So maybe the addition of Sparker, now that he's of age, will really move them to the next level. They can take Hybrid out of the rotation. If they play a lot of Blase Sparker and lean into that, I think that'll be really good for this team. So I'm leaving London at D tier, though, until they can start getting some of these wins. I think they just have to stay here. This is another one of those teams that I hope they prove me wrong. And I hope they prove that they are better than this because, there were high expectations for this. So, yeah, that's where we are. So let's move further up the list. Atlanta Reign. Oh, baby. Atlanta Reign looked really good. And I don't think anyone can say otherwise. They definitely ran out of steam in the June Joust when they got to the playoffs, but their ability to be versatile, adaptable, and adjust on the fly in the June Joust was, I think, super important for this team. And I think it really gave us a nod to the team we thought they could be heading into the season. Pelican played really well. I think Pelican was incredibly impressive. I think he's really sort of stepping into his own. I think Gator and Hawk sort of living up to that hype we had for them last year, and they're really starting to sort of make it work. And Masar's just been, a lot of my concerns in Atlanta Reign was also Masar, but I think he's been one of the better main supports that we have in the league. Not only on the Lucio, but on the Brig, on the Mercy, I think he's been really solid. So I'm actually moving Atlanta all the way up into the A tier because I think this isn't a one-off performance by the Atlanta Reign. Nothing about their performance made it seem like this was like a meta one-trick thing. I think they were incredibly... I think that versatility and the adaptability, I think, is what's really standing out in my mind. It's like, this wasn't just like a luck out type of thing. So that's why I'm putting them up into the A tier. I expect big things of them. I've been disappointed by Atlanta so many times before where we start to think that they're breaking this mold of, I love Hawk and everyone at the Atlanta Reign team likes to meme at us, but they are the gatekeepers. They have been historically the gatekeepers. They've had some good wins here and there, but they've never really been able to break out of that mold where they don't lose to bad teams, but they never really get these big wins against these big teams. And I think we saw that for the first time in the June Joust. So I'm hoping to see more of that from them moving forward. Hangzhou Spark. Oh my God. This is a team that was ridiculous, right? On another level, we thought, holy shit, the Spark is really going to start coming into their own. They're going to start utilizing a lot of their roster, but also just playing the best pieces. Shy is still fucking. He's still be doing a lot of fucking. But I'm putting them in the B tier purely because I don't know what the fuck that was in the playoffs. They were lost. I don't even know where they were going. They were all over the place in terms of just coordination, hero picks, playing the right players on the right heroes. It just, nothing about that gave confidence. And especially knowing how bad they were at the start of the season, as much as I think they can easily compete at the A tier and they have all the tools for that, until they can consistently show that to me and they can start getting some really good wins, I'm just going to keep them in the B tier because, I don't know, it's just... something about the Spark just rubs me the wrong way because I was not excited for this team coming into the season. I said that they weren't going to be as good as everyone thought they were. That's before Shy started fucking and really brought this team back into the limelight of hey, this is a really good team. But even then, just because they have this really big bench, I feel like everyone likes to be like, oh, look at how stacked the Hangzhou bench is. I really don't think it is. I think there's a lot of things that you're never going to play on that Hangzhou bench. And they're not really utilizing that to its fullest potential, I feel like. So we'll see. We'll see as they go on. Maybe they'll prove me wrong once again. But really, time will tell. So yeah, moving on. NYXL. Oh, shit. I think I have to put them in the B tier. I think just because of how good they were in the June Joust. But I kind of want to keep them in the C tier. I really do want to keep them in the C tier. Nothing about them gave me a ton of hope. And I honestly think their performance was based a lot on everyone else being shit. Yeah, I'm going to keep them in C tier. I think this team is definitely on the cusp of B. But I don't know. They got a couple of good wins. Good on them. But I don't think they're better than a lot of these other teams. And I don't think that they, especially when you look at it, the teams above, once everything shakes out, I would not feel confident that NYXL is going to beat the Spark or the Gladiators or the Seoul Dynasty, right? Or any of these teams. I would never have that confidence, right? And as much as NYXL did beat the Spark in that match, it goes back to what I said of, I think that was NYXL playing well in their meta. and Spark just with this really weird play style, right? Aren't they 3-5? Yeah, they are one of the worst teams in the league. So in terms of like match record, right? They are 3-5, as you said. So they are very parallel with the Guangzhou Charge in terms of record. So that's why we're going to keep them here, right? Yeah, and as you said, Mux Kiddo, like there are days in which they're going to be B tier, and that's fair. But I think until we see that consistently, like they got rolled in the playoffs, right? People are going to be like, oh, but they made it to the June Joust playoffs. And it's like, yeah, they made it there because they beat a Spark team. They were on the easy side of the bracket and Spark shut the bed. So that is how they qualified, right? And then they just got rolled, like in the playoffs. Like it was wild. So I think that's fair. And I do like that I'm staying in C tier. I felt like I did want to move them up, but you can't really do that. Boston is a team that I'm going to keep in the C tier. I think Boston has a lot of potential, and they were a great participation team in the West for the top 6, but they don't look good against any of these teams. It's the same thing of I would not feel confident with Boston beating any of these teams. Maybe on a good day, maybe everything fires up and they start really focusing and improving at a drastic level because they have talent on their team. They just haven't been able to string it together. But they fell short towards the end. Towards the end, they just didn't look competitive. So I'm going to keep them here in C tier. I'm more optimistic about Boston moving into this, moving into the rest of these tournaments. But I don't think I can move them, especially seeing as I'm going to shuffle things around as I go higher up the bracket as well. So Toronto is also coming down to the C tier. I think Toronto had a good melee. They actually Nice and Hisu were playing really well. It's unfortunate they had a lot of the COVID issues and the team issues where they weren't able to play at the highest level because they have been improving, but they didn't look as good. And I've never been sold on this Toronto Defiant team. And until they can show me these consistent wins, I'm not going to do that. They are another team that has been very up and down, inconsistent, can maybe beat some of these teams. As you said, Toronto, the gatekeepers. They might be that, right? They might be better than a lot of the bottom end, but I don't see Toronto beating any of these teams, at least not consistently, and staying at that level. So Toronto's going down for me again, and hopefully we can see more from them moving forward. And hopefully we get to see something come out of this whole issue, and we get to see Aspire come into the Overwatch League rather than just on a month contract. They did just release Beast, I believe. I saw that on my Twitter feed this morning. So Beast is out. Doesn't really change a whole lot. Like, we never really expected Beast to play that much. He sort of got stuck on a roster. So hopefully things go well for him. But as I said, doesn't really change a whole lot. Then we talk about the Seoul Dynasty. And Seoul Dynasty, they are 6-2, right? So they are good. But I don't know if that's just a result of them being in the Eastern region. Like, do they deserve to be in the A tier? Who are the teams that they beat? 1 second. I want to see the teams that they're beating because this feels weird. You know what I mean? I don't feel like, from what I've watched of the Seoul Dynasty, they've given me no confidence in their ability to win games. Because obviously they have Prophet, obviously they have Fitz. But, so, here's their record, and here's what they've done on their matches, right? Is this updated? I think it is, yeah, it looks like it's updated. So, they're 6-2, so their 2 losses have been against the Chengdu Hunters and the Shanghai Dragons. Am I looking at this right? Because these are qualifiers. Wait, I don't think this is sorted correctly. I don't know what I'm looking at. This isn't sorted correctly, but this is their 2021 season. They lost to Philly, and they lost to, in the regular season. All right, it doesn't matter when they did. But let's look at the teams that they beat. Let's look at around. Check the dates. It's correct. Yeah, but I'm trying to work out where they happened, like qualifiers for the. I feel like this should be June Jazz qualifiers, and it looks very inconsistent of what we saw. But yeah, as I said, let's look at the teams that they've beaten. They've beaten Valiant, Guangzhou twice, Chengdu once, and then New York twice, right? So they haven't beaten a good team. The only good team I think they've beaten is Chengdu, which they beat in a 3-2. But they've also lost to Chengdu as well. So they haven't really been getting these big, significant victories that we need to look at and be like, see, well, they're actually doing really well, their records. They've had a really easy schedule. So that is why I really want to keep Seoul Dynasty down here in the B tier, because they haven't shown the ability, and especially with Philly going to get way better, I think with their additions of now that they have all of their players sorting out their visas, they're going to be at full roster potential. Seoul's going to stay at B. As much as it seems ridiculous that they are second in their rankings, until they can prove to me that they are going to consistently qualify in the East for these tournaments and then beat some of these teams, I can't move them up. So kind of sad because they have a lot of potential, but they just haven't been able to show that in this league. I was really hyped for Seoul coming in with the addition of creative. TU looked pretty solid, but I remember we watched one of their matches back, right? And we did the VOD review, and TU had some woeful ultimates, and it really feels like they're heavily dependent on Fitz and Profit to just go sicko mode. And if that doesn't happen, it's like, well, now they don't really have anything going for them. So yeah, I think they stay here at B tier, and then we move on. So this is where it starts getting really hard, because I want to move some people out of A tier. I really do. I don't want to. I think the Gladiators have to go up. I want to move the Gladiators up. I feel good about the Gladiators. I think they showed a lot of good things. I think Kevs are coming to NA now being on low ping, but I think they looked way better and they looked way more in sync. And I know this is going to come back. Look at who they've beaten. All right, let's do this again. Maybe this is just me just like hitting the hopium really hard because I really want to believe in this Gladiators team. What do we got? Paris, Boston, Atlanta, Vancouver, Boston. Oh, God. Oh, no. Maybe this is another team like the Seoul Dynasty when you look at who they're beaten. The only good team they really beat was Atlanta. Yeah, they kept it close versus Dallas, but still they weren't ever really in it, right? Like, it could have flipped. Maybe I have just built Gladiators up in my mind to this level of just like, yeah, this is it. They've pulled it together, but really it's not. Okay, you guys win. You guys win. Yeah. Sorry, Gladiators fans. You're going to have to remain Sadiators in the B tier for a little bit longer. Until they can start winning some matches, I think it's not fair to put them in A tier, especially with how stacked the A tier as well. I think they have to stay in the B tier. They are high B tier. Let me give you a little bit of caveat, Gladiators fans. You guys are high B tier. But yeah, until they get proof that they are able to beat the top end teams, then we won't. I didn't realize the roster, their strength of schedule was that strong. So let me reiterate why my thoughts of them are good. I think the Kevs to the NA is very good. I think Muse looks a lot more comfortable right now. Space is great. They seem to be understanding how they want to play Skewed and Moth a lot more. I would like to see them lean more into playing Moth, because I actually think they play better as a team when Moth is in it. And I'd be curious to know how much communication aspect they lose when Moth comes out of the lineup, because Skewed is a great player and a great brig, but they don't seem to play anywhere near as well when Skewed is in that lineup. So maybe that's just my biased Moth opinion, but they have good pieces. They have things working for them. But as you said, strength of schedule, they had an easy schedule, and then they fell to the Dallas Fuel. So you can't be too upset if you're a Gladiators, but yeah, it's not consistent enough. Okay, you are actually a dumb. There is no way you watch the games. Bruh. You talking to me? It's my job. I literally get paid. I have to watch it live every time. And I think I've reviewed on my stream every single Gladiators game that's ever been played. You are not using your eyes? Alright, he's baiting me. He's baiting me. Let's just calm down. This is bait. Chat, let's just breathe out. Custa, they've only lost to Fuel and Shock also. Yeah. But that is fine. But then they've never beaten anyone good. The only team they've beaten was Atlanta at the start of the June Joust. They did well against Dallas. That's great. That's great. Doing well against a team does not mean they are good. Like, I cannot say consistently, can the Gladiators beat Washington? I'm going to move down, but can they consistently beat a Shanghai Dragons, a Dallas Fuel, a Philadelphia Fusion, a Houston Outlaws, a San Francisco Shock? Right now, if I'm a Gladiators fan, and I'm looking at it, absolutely fucking not. And until they prove to me that they can, why is this a discussion? Like, that I was on your side. I agree that the Gladiators are playing well, but they haven't beaten a good team. If they can't beat a good team, then how do they deserve to be in the A tier, right? This isn't a slight against the Gladiators. This isn't me being like, look at these shitters. They are doing well. They do have the ability to easily break in with the talent that they have into A tier, but until they do that, I don't think this is an unreasonable thing. And you're saying that I'm not watching the games when I'm giving you very specific and clear points about why all of their players are good and why I'm hyping them up, but the reason they're down here is because of results. You need to use your ears and less of your eyes and just, wipe away the fucking tears and stop hitting the copium so much and just, like, be rational about where we are putting these teams. It's fine. Gladiators are still a good team. I like a lot of their players. I actually think I'm one of the few teams that I'm actually, like, supporting and cheering for is the Gladiators. I really am. I really hope this team does well. I like a lot of the players on this team. But we got to be rational. We got to be unbiased. All right. Here we go. San Francisco Shock. San Francisco Shock are going to stay consolidated in the A tier. I think the San Francisco Shock have been way better. They were way better in the June Joust. This is a team that I think still has that championship potential. They seem to feel like they're missing the secret sauce of the San Francisco Shock. They're not. I don't see the San Francisco Shock beating a Shanghai or Dallas anytime soon, and that's the issue that they keep running into. Shock got bopped by the Atlanta Reign. It wasn't close, which is what gives me concerns about the Shock. But I don't know. I think they had some really good matches. I think let's have a look at their record of who they played against, because they've actually had some really good matches. They've been pushed by a lot of teams, but I think they just on their the team and the potential that they have, they beat Dallas at the start of the tournament. If we remember correctly, they beat Washington, which is a team that's going down. I think a lot of people are going to be like, they don't deserve to be in A tier because they got 3-0'd by Atlanta. But I think Atlanta was playing very well. And I think that this was a very good meta and a situation for Atlanta. And Shock just didn't perform on the day. And I think that is what I'm sort of saying, where it feels like the same Shock doesn't show up every day to play like we see from them historically in the past, where they just always find a way to get these wins. So I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, FD God's been struggling and the team's been struggling. And that's fair, but I don't feel comfortable putting the San Francisco Shock down into the B tier. They don't deserve to be there. They are 2-time championships. I believe in their coaching staff. I don't think they're anywhere near as strong as they've ever been. And I'm not 100% sold on Shock they're not the top of the A tier. They are middle, if not bottom of the pack of the A tier, because I think there's other teams that have been more consistent than them. So, but they deserve to be in the A tier. They're not the elites, and they don't have what thing. And I'm worried if you're a San Francisco Shock fan, there is nothing that is saying that they're going to win this championship this year. There haven't been these big redeeming, sweeping qualities for the Shock because other teams have just been better than them consistently. So we'll leave that there. I've obviously talked a lot about the San Francisco Shock. We went back and reviewed a lot of their games. I'm not going to talk about the FD God stuff. I think their whole team their whole strategy as a team with their synergy, even Choi and Smurf, I don't think are playing super well. I actually think Choi and Smurf really struggled in that series that they got knocked out by Atlanta Reign. Glista had some good games, but not at the highest level, right? He's not that elite hit scan that they need him to be. I think Nero's been solid. I think They need to work out what's going on with Twilight and Violet. It feels weird that Violet is getting switched around, and it doesn't feel like there's any consistency to their roster, right? Twilight comes into play Anna, and he deservedly should. He's one of the best we have in the league, and Violet doesn't want to play it. But then why is Violet taking over FD God's position on the Brig, or even the Lucio at certain times? It feels muddled, and I think that is where we are really running into this sort of like issue. Okay, I'm gonna time you out because you're just triggering my entire chat. The guy here, just stop responding to him. You got a 10-minute timeout. Hopefully we'll be done with this, and then you can come in with your takes at the end. All right, and that's why San Francisco Shock is gonna stay in A tier. Florida Mayhem. A part of me wants to put them in the B tier. Let me look at their tournament results, because let me see if I'm on like this, like, I've always been rude to the Mayhem. I'm really bad about putting the Mayhem anywhere. But losing to Washington was like my big one. Like Washington, like they went 0-3 in this most recent tournament. And it's not like they lost to any really bad teams, which makes me think this is an awful team, right? But they lost to Washington and Houston, right? Like everyone expected them to lose to Dallas, and they got close, but losing to Washington and Houston is a really big red flag. And I'm wanting to spread out this, so I kind of think I have to put Mayhem down here. Especially if I'm putting the Gladiators here, right? Like, I would say I'd put Florida and Gladiators in the same boat of, like, they have really good players, but they haven't really got any of those big wins, right? When was the last time they got a big win? They beat Chengdu in the May Melee playoffs. But other than that, they've never really beaten anyone crazy. Like, Washington was really trash back here. They're close, and they're on the cusp at all times. Like, they are really good, and they're on the cusp, but I'm just not sold that this is the A-tier team. I feel like we're spreading out, and we're, like, consolidating the A-tier a lot, so I'm going to put the Mayhem down. But this is another team, like the Gladiators, that I think are very closely on the edge of the A-tier, but I don't want to just put everyone in A-tier, because that just feels redundant. So, a high B for the Florida Mayhem. I'm still going to stand by. I think Florida Mayhem's biggest weakness right now is they are one of the more inflexible high-end teams. I think if Yaki can't play that, if they can't play the dive, I'm not sold on this roster, right? We haven't seen them play like a double hit scan. Like, it doesn't feel like Yaki can play the Tracer and the Echo really well, and BQB plays the hit scan really well, but there's not a lot of like cross roll ability in either of these players. So big trade, no more Slime Hybe now. So what are you talking about, Gray? Stop yelling in my chat. People are going to believe that Hybe's going to go to the Florida Mayhem. So yeah, Yaki could pop, and I'm sure that Swing Chip is going to send me an angry letter about putting the Florida Mayhem in the B tier, but I think they should stay here until they can prove me otherwise. So consolidating it, Florida Mayhem ends up in the B tier. Oh, you gave him a high B. Oh my god. That is where that ended up. Let me time out Gray as well. Where is he? All right. Let me get this shit out of here. All right. Let's keep moving on. Chengdu Hunters. Another team that is going down. I think Chengdu Hunters had a phenomenal May Melee. We thought we were in the Chengdu zone. We were living in the Twilight Zone, legitimately, with Chengdu Hunters. We love them. Gaga's sick. Jimmy's a meme. But, you know, Leave is actually just fucking... Leave does things to me that I never thought a player could do. Like, I just want to watch Leave play so much more. Same thing with Nisha. I love Nisha. But the team didn't perform. And the team has been pretty poor. Like, at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. They're 4-4 after qualifying for the May Melee, right? Like, their most recent tournament structures, let's get it up, just so that we can sort of really start looking at these as we go higher. Their results, they lost to Spark, they lost to Seoul, they beat Philly, they lost to Shanghai. Like, they're not losing to bad teams, but they're also, I don't think they're ever going to beat Shanghai. And I don't think they're going to beat Philly anymore now that they're not going to beat Philly anymore now that, like, Philly has consolidated, in my opinion. So I think they have to stay down here in the B tier. They have potential. They have great players. Just doesn't seem well-rounded right now. And the more we watch them play, it more feels like that they are going to go back to their niche style of playing like the Jinmu Farah, or like playing these really weird comps and not playing straight up. I also, as much as Jimmy's a meme, you guys know, I have an unreasonable bias against Jimmy at this point, right? Like, I really do, but I just don't think Jimmy's going to ever be able to hold his own against these top-end hit scans. Hit scan is so important, and he's the only real hit scan for this team. If he ends up playing against some of these best, they're going to struggle. So that's why he's staying in the B tier as well. So, yeah, moving on. We don't want to talk about them too much. Yeah, and as someone just said, Going Online says they're still subbing out Gaga for Among, and I don't, as much as Among might be a better wrecking ball, and they have had mixed success with it, them subbing in Among and just like putting these players in on random times, like sometimes they're putting, they're switching in Yveltal as well to play the Mercy. It's like, why are we putting in Yveltal? Nisha is just, I think Yveltal's Mercy and Nisha's are comparable. They're both some of the best Mercies we have in the league. Doesn't mean they should be subbing them in. It doesn't seem like they know what they're doing, like with their coordination. And it feels like that constant back and forth with their players is hurting them in the long run. As much as it's winning them a map here and there, it's hurting them in the long run. And I think that's really costing them. So I think they're losing their communication struggle, especially when you're switching in your main supports and your main tanks. In my opinion, two of the biggest roles that I would never want to see subbed. Those are the two main roles that they're switching in and out of. And I think that is really hurting them. So until they stop doing that and they give me faith that they're going to commit to a certain roster and that's going to work for them in the long run, I'm not sold on it. So Chengdu goes down to B tier. And we move onwards. The Houston Outlaws. Houston Outlaws stay. I really think the Houston Outlaws stay. I think the Houston Outlaws had a phenomenal June joust. And I've said phenomenal 19 times in the last 20 minutes. I am sorry about that. But they have to stay in A tier. I don't think they are the Gladiators or the Mayhem where they're incredible. They're on the cusp. They are. But at the end of the day, like when we talk about those teams, it's like they haven't beaten any good teams anytime recently. Houston has. Like, Houston's actually had a couple of good wins, and their most recent loss was against Dallas. But that was just, Houston couldn't match up against the way that the Dallas Fuel were playing the game. I think they got meta-fucked. They haven't had a lot of incredible wins, but they've been solid, right? Like, of their last, 10 matches, of their 3 losses, 2 of them been to Dallas. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I think that they are going to be that gatekeeper team for the end. I don't think Houston Outlaws is going to win a tournament anytime soon. They're kind of in the same boat as Atlanta Reign, in my opinion, of they are phenomenal. All their players are firing on all cylinders. They have a lot of diversity. They have a lot going for them as a team. I think a lot of their players are stepping up, which is awesome. I don't think that's going to get them across the edge to win a playoffs or anything like that, but they're a team that could easily make it into any playoffs, and they did almost make it to these playoffs. If they're on the other side of the bracket, right, I think when we have if we had Atlanta versus Houston, that would have been a really interesting matchup. I don't know who would have won that because I think both teams were very, very strong at what they wanted to play, and I think they matched up really interestingly. So I think I'm going to put Houston Outlaws there and keep them in the A tier. So once again, they haven't beaten a ton of great teams, and I could come back to regret this, but I believe in the Houston Outlaws more than I believe in the Gladiators and the Florida Mayhem right now. Not by much, but I believe it. And that is that difference of the A tier to the B tier, right? That's actually a great question as well, Going Online. You're asking great questions and bringing up great points. The big question mark that I have for this Houston Outlaws team, and I talked about this team a lot when we did their VOD review, is what the fuck are they doing with their subs, right? We didn't see Jake come in at all in the matchup that they had against Dallas Fuel. They obviously didn't want to play Brig, which makes sense. And it seems like if I was taking a stab at what they're doing, if Jake is going to come in, they will play Django. And my assumption is Dreamer has good communication that Django doesn't. And Jake does a good job of counteracting that loss of communication in comparison to when Dreamer's out. And that's how it works for them. That's my uninformed guess at what is happening at the end. They played Brig Moira. We're not going to talk about the Brig Moira that happened in Eichenwald. It was disappointing to see what the Houston Outlaws played. That was a massive failure, in my opinion, against Alice Hill, but I think they were just throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck, and nothing stuck. So I don't really understand the difference between Dreamer and Django. I don't think Dreamer is as good as Django, maybe on the Winston, but everything else I really like Django a lot more, but we have such a small sample size of Django. So obviously, I actually really heavily believe in the coaching staff and the structure that exists within the Houston Outlaws. So I believe that they're doing their due diligence and they're actually doing what is best for the team, regardless of just putting in teams willy-nilly. I do think they need to start consolidating which 6 to 7 players they really want to lean into as we go closer towards the playoffs. Because I think that's going to hurt them going back and forth, especially with a communication structure. It's the same thing that I said about the Chengdu Hunters, right? The 2 mainstays that I would love to have consistent in any roster is the main tank and the main support. And they're the 2 things that they're actually heavily moving around. So that is what I think gives these massive fluctuations to seeing them coordinate well as a team. And I think they need to be careful about doing that consistently. So as I said, I trust them to make the right decision, but only time will tell. Piggy is just quietly one of the best off-tanks in the league right now. And I think you can agree with that. And not only that, all of the players, and this is why I believe in them, I think Crimzo has had a standout performance. I think he's easily making a name for himself as one of the best Western flex supports we have in the league. I think Juby's been silently solid. He gets a lot of flack for this most recent match, but he's actually been very silently solid in the May Melee in the previous matches. I think he had a really good rookie opening tournament. And then you have their DPS line is stacked, right? Happy's been playing phenomenally. Dante's been an MVP candidate if he didn't have ball problems, in my opinion, throughout the entire tournament. And then their third DPS, who's their third DPSs that they have? Like, they have Jake that comes in, they have Hydration, and they have KSF. We haven't seen a whole lot of Hydration and KSF, but it's just because I don't think they've been needed, but it's great to have players like that on the bench, right? So they are a stacked roster, and I think they've been utilizing it really well. So I just want to see them keep improving and growing for tournament to tournament, because as much as a lot of people will look at it as Houston Outlaws failed in the June Joust, I don't look at it like that. I think they looked really good. I think they looked really solid, and they just fell to the Dallas Fuel Lucio Moira stuff that they knew that they couldn't mirror. So they tried to come up with a different solution, and it looked ugly. But at the end of the day, they had to try something, and I've been a part of those kind of matches. All right, now let's talk about the Washington Justice. So the Washington Justice is definitely going down to the B tier. This is one isn't even a debate, okay? This is like, Washington Justice has some of the most ridiculous talent that we've ever seen. That we've never seen a more stacked lineup than the Washington Justice, but they're on the cusp of being in the C tier. They really are. And it's because they lost to Paris, they lost to Florida, they lost to Boston, right? Like, the only reason they are in the B tier is because they have a stacked lineup, okay? I don't understand why this team is so bad. Just look at their roster, they should be really good. I think the Bebe closer is definitely not giving them that lift that they really need to. They aren't as dominant as these higher end supports. All the supports I feel like have been improving at a drastic rate. Baby and Closer have just been fine, right? And that's what we were worried about, right? Like, they're not bad. They're not losing them series, I don't think, right? But they've been doing fine, right? I think they've been good for this team, but they need to be great, right? And I think Jerry has really struggled on the hit scan. I think we can all agree. Jerry, I'm kind of at a point where it's just like, I love Jerry just as much as everyone. I don't think Jerry should play. And I think they should really heavily lean into Decay plays this game with Assassin. And if we need to play Decay Jerry for whatever reason, then we do that. But I think they need to heavily lean into more Decay Assassin. Decay should never come out of the lineup. And as much as that feels like a shitty thing, especially for a hit scan like Jerry, Decay says like, I'm not confident. In his post-game interview, he said, I'm not confident on the hit scan. Fuck it, dude. Every time I've ever seen that guy play in a match, he fucking owns. And that is the silver lining. When Decay plays, he carries the game. He can put the team on his back and enable everyone else to be better, right? Because he takes so little resources and does so much with so little, he should never come out. And he showed that on Reaper. He just absolutely took over the game, and it elevated everyone else on the Washington Justice as well. So they need to work it out. I don't know what's going on in the coaching. I don't know what's going on in the team aspect or what's going on with all of that. But I think that is the big takeaway. Decay should always play. And if he doesn't, they're going to fall even further. But for that reason, they're staying 100% in the B tier. What is their standing actually right now? 5-3. So they're not doing awfully, right? And they have had some good wins. But nothing about this team makes me confident about them at all. But they could easily come into this next tournament and be phenomenal. Because the talent is there, right? So, yo, thank you very much, Paddock. I appreciate it. All right, moving onwards. Philadelphia Fusion. And here's the thing. I want to leave Philly in the A tier. And it feels like a slap in the face to everyone else that I moved down. But I want to keep Philly here. Custa, no, I know I think it's gonna piss a lot of people off, but I really want to do it. I want this to be my hot take of my power rankings. Lost the map to Valiant. I know. As I said, there is no rational reason for what I'm about to do, but I'm gonna fucking do it. You guys can't stop me. I'm the gingerbread man. Where is it? Where is Philly? So, a lot of you are saying explain yourself. So here we are. Okay, is Shockwave in the country yet? Who is not in the country yet, right? It's only Shockwave that's not there, right? I thought it was Poco and Astro. No Poco or Shockwave. I thought Poco was there. I thought they announced that. Is this a throw? They lost to New York and Chengdu. Oh, this feels like a throw. This feels like all anyone's gonna talk about in the video if I commit to this. Okay, let me talk about why, right? The reason I think this is a thing is because I think Philly just shit the bed in the June Joust. I really do. And I actually think the addition of EQO is really good. He looks like he's on form. EQO looks like he's in form. It looks like he has a great way of like adding into it. And one of the biggest issues I think Philly was happening is Rascal looked like he was losing confidence in himself. I don't think Rascal's Echo looked very good in the June Joust, and I think having that extra DPS is going to be very good for them. And that I think having Rascal force on, because I think Rascal played for this Chengdu and this New York match, and I think they lost in that matchup. I think the addition of having Funny Astro come back into this lineup is going to be very important, especially if we stay in a Lucio meta. I think Funny Astro is way better at Lucio than Toby is. And here's it as well. I think Philly is the second best team in the East. Right? I think Philly is the second best team in the East. So, I think they should make the playoffs. But maybe that's disrespectful to put them here. Even though they're the best team, second best team in the East, doesn't mean they should be an A tier. That's a bit of a stretch. Well, if you say they're not the second best team in the East, who's better than them? Seoul? No, I don't trust Seoul for the life of me. And Shanghai, like Seoul's record is, we looked at Seoul's record. Their record, they haven't played many hard teams. And Chengdu is just, I'm losing faith in Chengdu by the week. So, Hangzhou is another team that I think, like, and here's the issue. Is Hangzhou as well just shit the bed in the playoffs. It wasn't like they shit the bed of they just played badly. They just, like, looked lost. And I don't believe that their coaching is doing a good job. So, I would believe in Philly more than the Spark. So maybe it's just, this is my dice roll. Like, I'm choosing a champion right now of like, who is gonna, like, Shanghai is by far the best in the East. Not even competition. But it's like, who's my champion for the East? Like, it feels weird not having a single other Eastern team in the A tier. And that's why I want to put Philly here. So if I was gonna pick a second team that is sort of why I want to put Philly here, is because Philly is my second team. And that's why I want to put them in the A tier. All right, bro, I'm timing you out again. We're not even talking about Atlanta anymore. We're not there. We'll have this discussion after the video. APAC kind of shit. APAC is like, so Shanghai is by far the best team in the East. I think everything else is an absolute coin flip. There is potential for some of these teams to really step up going into the later end of the season, because the East doesn't have a lack of talent. I just don't trust any of the teams. For whatever reason, all of them can't really string it together. So that's sort of where we're at. And that's why I'm sticking with Philly. I'm going to leave Philly here. You guys can mold out of control as much as you want in the comments and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to leave Philly here. I believe in the Philly Fusion more than anyone else. I think they have a stacked roster. Funny Astro coming back into the lineup with Alarm. I think they're going to be good. And I think they're going to prove... Because I think the June Joust, those 2 losses that they had in the June Joust, and the 1 map loss to the Valiant, right? Other than that, they've been really good, right? They went 4-0 in the May Melee, and then they lost to the Shanghai Dragons to qualify, right? They were this close to beating the Shanghai Dragons. These 2 losses and the 1 map to Valiant is what is making everyone incredibly hesitant. But this is just, I'm just going to chalk this up to them just not having a good eye on the meta and just not playing well, right? You think Toby will start over Astro? I don't think any place Toby starts over Astro. You can say the same thing about Washington, but Washington didn't have a good May Melee, I don't think. Like, and that's my thing, is I think Washington kind of blew out in the May Melee. Like, they went 2-2 in the May Melee. I think the Philly doing well in the first part of the season is what is giving me hope for them for the rest of it. And Philly did, yes. Philly had a great May Melee. They went 4-0. They went 4-0 and almost qualified over Shanghai Dragons, right? Like, they almost made it there. Like, they actually did. Justice went 4-0. Did they? Oh, they did. Oh, no, my points are going to fall apart now. How do I get myself out of this one? This doesn't feel good anymore. We're gonna have to reshoot the whole video. Fuck it, we're doing it again. We gotta start over. I've cornered myself, guys. There's no way. Yeah, Washington and Philly are very parallel, just in 2 different regions. I'm not doing the video again. In case you thought I was going to do it, I'm not going to do it again. We're just going to have to deal with the fact that I'm just going to commit to this. I'm not moving it, though. I'm not moving Philly. As much as you guys are right, I'm not moving Philly. There's no reason. There's no rhyme. You are completely correct about Washington and Philly. I think it's the fact that I want to rest on the idea that if Philly is going to be the second best team, in APAC, I want to have them in A tier. Weakling, nah. We're staying. There we go. You guys can just... Yeah, 3 of the easy wins were for Washington were easy, but you can say the same thing about Philly, right? As much as, like, they beat Dallas, which was a good. This is when Dallas was struggling. But, like, they did beat 3 easy teams, but so did Philly, right? Like, Philly's May Melee, it had, like, they beat Seoul, but Spark was shit back then, right? The only real big win was, like, Chengdu, I think, back then. Like, Hangzhou, Spark, Valiant, and Seoul weren't very good at the start of the season, so... It's kind of the same thing. And, like, their wins over Guangzhou and Valiant, like, that's not impressive for Philly. So, I don't know. You guys are probably right. And this is probably just going to be the heart of everything that everyone's going to talk about the whole time, is that this is a really dumb take. But I believe in Philly. The thing is, Philly had people coming back where Justice has had the full roster already. Yeah, that's true. That's true as well. Like, you know, we don't know when Shockwave and that is going to become available. But I also just really believe in Carpe, right? I believe in Carpe. I believe in Alarm. I believe in Funny Astro. I think Mano has been really good at certain points, and I think he can fit well. And I think if EQO can pick up that mantle and go back to the Carpe EQO duo of old, when I was relevant, I think they can do great things. I really do. So I think this is blind faith. I don't think there's a good amount of analytical reason. Like, as you said, you backed my analytical reason into a corner and started beating me to a pulp. So this is just me going with my heart. This is just me choosing with my heart that I think Philly is going to be the best, and I think they deserve to be in this tier. So I'm on the hopium. This is a true hopium. Let's move on, though. Let's move on. Let's talk about Dallas Fuel, Shanghai Dragons. Nothing's changing here. I don't think anyone can ever expect anything to change here. Here, things are going to stay the same. Dallas Fuel, I think, have been incredible. It'll be interesting to see if we have the addition of Pine and the influence that that is going to have on the Dallas Fuel, right? Because we don't know if Pine's going to be good for the team. Maybe the fact that they have been able to commit to their own styles and play it better than everyone else has been their secret sauce, right? Maybe that is the thing that made them unique and made them the best. If they just go back to playing the meta like every other team, is that going to hurt them more than help them? We don't know. We don't know. Does anyone know, is Pine in Dallas yet? Has he made it? I'm not sure if I've caught up with that. No, he's not, right? They said that he's on the way, right? And but we don't know when he's coming. He's still in Korea. So we don't know. We don't even know if he's going to play in the Summer Showdown. We don't know if that's going to be an effect. We'll see. We'll see. The thing that I am worried about for the Dallas Fuel is if we end up in a Tracer meta again. And, you know, as much as they've shown that they can be very good at it, they won the May Melee, right? I'm worried if it's going to catch up to them again. Like, can Sparkle keep it up? Can they keep playing their style? Can they keep firing on all cylinders? Maybe they can. And I'm not going to bet against them. I'm not betting against Sparkle Tracer. I did that once before and I got fucking exposed on Twitter by Sparkle. So I'm not. But those are the legitimate concerns that I think you have to look into. I think if they can get a good meta, like if they can't play the hit scan, like they got away with it in the grand finals against Shanghai Dragons playing Soldier, right? That was their solution to the hit scan was maybe we won't be as fortunate or they won't be as fortunate. And hit scan might be a must play, right? In this upcoming meta. We don't know. We had a massive Echo nerf. We had a massive Moira nerf. It might change the way the game's played. So time will tell. Time will tell. And then talking about the Shanghai Dragons, they just came off of the win on the June Joust. Just their roster is so stacked. They have Who Are You now to really sort of consolidate their team and really like give them that Genji influence. And I think they will be able to build a lot off of that Genji influence, right? And then they have Develop, who they're going to develop, pun intended. But I don't know how long that's going to last for, right? Like, is Develop ever going to play? Is Fleta and Lip just going to be the mainstay for the roster? We don't know. We don't know. So time will tell. But at the end of the day, they're a phenomenal team. They stay at S tier. They will almost certainly qualify for every single tournament because they are by far the best team in the Eastern region. Right? They are the best team in the Eastern region. They have a ton of talent. I don't think there's a single meta that can catch them off guard. They will always be there. The real question for the Shanghai Dragons is, can they consistently be the best? Will they be able to finally win a championship? Not just a tournament, but the whole thing. Will they be the champions for 2021? Because that has to be their ultimate goal, right? Winning a tournament was great and they were all really excited about it, but the end goal is at the end, right? So they need to keep building on that and making sure that everyone is consolidated because they need to keep building on a lot of different pieces. If they can get Fate to play at that level in every single meta, I think Fate was one of their weaker links in the May Melee and one of the core reasons that they ended up falling at the end. If Fate can keep playing like he did in the June Joust for the rest of the season, Shanghai is going to be really hard to beat. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, this is it. Here's my tier list. This is the end result. I know that the Philly thing is going to piss a lot of people off. I'm sorry. You can yell at me in the YouTube comments. You can yell at me in chat, just as what you do. I probably deserve it. I definitely deserve it. To that one guy who thinks that Gladiators should be in A tier, who's obviously a Gladiators fan, now you can start yelling because I'll actually address your questions. But I really firmly believe that Gladiators and Mayhem should be down here. I like the diversity of this before, right? Because before we just had everyone in A tier, right? But I actually like that we sort of have this sort of bell curve going on. So I think it looks good. So let me know what you guys think. Other than the Philly, let's talk about. You can throw in your Philly hate for me at the top of it. Let me know other things that you believe in at the other end, because I think this is pretty fair to all of these teams. There's a lot of range that a lot of these teams have, right? Gladiators, Mayhem could easily go up. Spark Soul could easily go up. Toronto Defiant could go up. MY Excelsior could easily go up. There's a couple of teams that could easily go down, right? So let me know what you guys think. Let me know. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys found this useful. The meta report for the Summer Showdown is done. No hero pulls. It's all going to be up in the air. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.